Hello, welcome to Not Complain Enough. I'm your podcast host, Carista, and we are at episode 10. That's right. We got to episode 10, which is more than most other podcasts get to, apparently, according to some statistics. Everyone starts a podcast and they don't even get to 10 episodes. So here we are at episode 10. And today I actually want to look at quiet quitting, which is kind of appropriate, right? Because a lot of podcasts don't get to episode 10 and we're talking about quiet quitting. And, there's been a lot of rhetoric around quiet quitting and acting your wage and all of these things. And I think that these conversations are not, one versus the other, and they're not employee versus employer. I think that they're a very nuanced conversation. And what we've lost in these binaries of like, well, it's quiet quitting or acting your wage, and these people just don't want to work and they're being lazy and you're not going to get ahead if you just do that. And I've seen quite eminent Australian business people come out and be like, you're only doing yourself a disservice by quiet quitting and acting your wage and all of these sorts of things. And you're not going to get ahead or be seen or be able to achieve anything in your career. Look, I mean, I get that perspective and I can appreciate that 100%. But the thing that I think a lot of people are missing is the nuance around it. So, say, for instance, you are in a workplace where you feel very stuck. You're not being seen. You're not being heard. You're essentially being bullied. You're being ostracized. You are incredibly unwell. Your mental health is suffering because of the environment that you're in, yet you feel stuck and your self-confidence has been so diminished that you can't see a way out. And you feel like you're stuck there. And going to work every day is like fucking job in itself. Even getting up and having a shower is hard work. And I can speak to these because this has been my experience. I've personally experienced that entirety of all of those things, having to go into a workplace where I was completely ostracized. I was bullied. I couldn't actually articulate the ways that I was bullied because it was so insidious. It was happening like every day, in every moment. I was being invited to meetings and then at the last minute being uninvited. I was being told to do something and then found out that somebody else was doing the same thing. I was being told to go do something and that it wasn't good enough, or that there was no real direction. And when I sought clarity, I was told to come with answers, not problems. When it was just actually seeking clarity around what the person was actually wanting, what this manager was wanting. And so I feel like quiet quitting, while it has been getting a bad rap and, this acting your wage and everything like that, I think that for a lot of people, it can actually help them to actually realize that what they're doing is preserving themselves, is helping them to cope through these awful situations. Because the thing was, in this particular situation that I was in, I knew that if I went to HR, they wouldn't actually help me. I knew that because I had worked in the highest office in this organization, and I saw how this organization had treated people when they had spoken out and when they had tried to make things better, because they had been bullied day in and day out. And I saw what that did to people, and I saw the ramifications of it too, because the thing is, it's not just about standing up to bullies. It's the fact that the repercussions that happen are actually so much more detrimental to your everyday mental health, to your health, to how you even see yourself as a person. It is destroying, not just at a soul level, but in every confidence, in every way, shape, and form. You feel like you actually amount to nothing, and that there actually isn't anything out there for you, because you're told time and time again that you're stupid, that what you provide is not good enough, that, your ideas are dumb. And you're told these things day in and day out. You're literally yelled at. I actually had a colleague whose manager yelled at her in such a way that I I stood there in shock. And I feel terrible for not standing in that circumstance, but I was actually so shocked that somebody would act like that in a workplace. And I mean, I actually shouldn't be shocked because that same person did a very similar thing to me. Not even not even 12 months beforehand. So to see and witness that again, I think I was in shock because it was almost like that complex PTSD kicking in of like, you know, you're in this environment and it's just happening again and again and again. And you go, holy fuck, like, really? Is this where we are? Like, have people not left high school? Have they not left their childhood of like being a petulant toddler? Like, they're literally yelling at me or yelling at people like they're yelling at their parents. Like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old yells at their parents and screams and stamps their feet and throws things. And that's literally what I've witnessed over and over again. And to be honest, it wasn't just this particular organization. There were other organizations where I have witnessed that behavior too. And it's just like, it actually makes you wonder. I mean, how do these people even get into these positions? How do they maintain their own emotional equilibrium when they can't even, you know, they can't even answer a simple question of being like, is this what you would like? Or even answer a simple question of like, I would like some clarity on the task or, this project of what you're wanting to achieve here, because you're being very vague about it. And the interesting thing is some of these people are purposely vague. One particular person I know would, color outside the lines quite a lot. There was lots of nepotism that was happening. There was lots of, jobs for the mates and things like that. And this was the public service we're talking about. Like, this is meant to be, the exemplary employer. This is the place where integrity is, the standard. It is beyond the standard. It's weaved into the makeup of the institution that it is. And yet, time and time again, certain people believe that they're better than the rules. And I think it's very interesting that in the last couple of days, well, actually yesterday, the National Anti-Corruption Commission has been approved in Parliament here in Australia. And the interesting thing about that is that, these organizations, particularly public servants who have been in the industry for a very long time, who think that they can get away with things, who think that, the rules need not apply to them. And it's not just politicians that act this way. There's a very big undercurrent of public servants who have been around for a very long time that think that they are beyond the rules, that think that they can get away with whatever they want, that they can color outside the lines and it's, no one's going to know. It doesn't matter. We can just cover it up at estimates. Like, no one will really know. Yeah, like, there's so much of it and it's actually so inherently awful. And the people that do speak up about it are the ones that get punished. And I can hand on heart say that I was one of those people. I spoke up when I saw things that weren't okay. And there were instances where, I didn't because of the repercussions. And, in that instance where this colleague was being yelled at by this other person, I didn't speak up because I knew that I would be even more ostracized and excluded from this team than I already was. And we're not talking about a very big team here. We're talking about less than half a dozen people. And the rifts within a very small team were a direct reflection of the insecurities of that person that was leading that team. And also the way that they operated, which was very untoward. Very, very untoward. And to the point where they wouldn't put things into writing because it was like, oh, well, if it's not in writing, then no one really knows about it. And so there was lots of Chinese whispers that would happen, or like, for want of a better word, gossip and back channeling, as this particular person liked to describe it. And that's actually what it was. There was lots of back channeling and insidious discussions that would happen, to the point where it was basically to try and make this particular person look good and everybody else look like they were not doing their job, when the truth was a very different story. And so I think that, yeah, when it comes to quiet quitting and all of these sorts of things, I think that we need to look at what circumstances people are actually in. What are the environments that they're trying to endure each and every day? And those are going to be a direct reflection of usually the culture of an organization. And I mean, the culture of this particular organization, that I have experienced a lot of this was not a particularly healthy culture. There was lots of people that were drinking the Kool-Aid, and they were the ones that were like, yeah, this place is amazing. And like, they're all over LinkedIn, like, sucking up and being like, oh, this place is so great and blah, 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 blah. And the interesting thing is that this particular organization has lost a lot of staff in a very short period of time. They're constantly advertising for staff. And it is a direct reflection of the culture that you're creating in these organizations. And it, goes beyond this one particular place. Like, this is actually, rampant through so many places. I saw the other day that Services Australia are, patting themselves on the back because they're getting rid of 1,000 contractors, because the Albanese government wants to reduce contractors in the public service, which, I think is absolutely, like, yes, reduce contractors. But the thing is, what risk does that actually come with? Because what's happened in the public service over the last decade in particular is that there has been a lot of people, it's happened across the public service, but it's also happened across like teaching and a whole bunch of different industries. What they try and do is they try and keep their FTE, so their full-time equivalent, those numbers down. And the way that they do that is by getting contractors in, because that doesn't actually equate to their FTE, right? It doesn't equate to their bottom line, to their numbers. And this is what it comes to. It comes down to all the fucking numbers, right? So sure, Services Australia are getting rid of 1,000 people, but you're still going to need to employ people to replace that expertise. And the thing is, the public service does not, it's not competitive in the market of actually attracting talent. It's not. So this is why they've had to outsource so much of it to contractors, because they need to get talent in. I mean, I've witnessed some areas of organizations literally just be full-time contract managers. They employ these people for their expertise in a particular area, and yet they don't even use them for that. They just use them as, full-time contract managers, who are just managing the expertise outside of the organization. And this is why there's such a huge churn of so many staff in so many different of these organizations, because what happens is they get employed as the expert in a certain area, and they're not used as that expert. They're used across a whole bunch of other areas that have nothing to do with what they were originally employed for. And this is the issue. It's like, well, of course, you end up with this in like this terrible cycle of people going, well, you know what, like, I am just, I'm not being used, my skills are worthless, I'm being told that I'm crap, but that's also because you're being put in a job that you didn't even sign up for in a lot of like in a lot of ways. And so of course people end up quite quitting or acting your wage, because it's like, well, you know, what choice do you have when you've got bills to pay and when you're in a position where your self-confidence and your self-worth has been so crushed. It's been beyond crushed. And so you get to a point where you're like, well, that's all I'm worth. Like, can't even do this anymore. Like, I'm worthless. And that's a valid thing. And I've witnessed that happen to so many people, including myself, in these situations. You get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, like I'm shit at this. And then you go outside of these organizations and you go back into a workplace, or you're so scarred from so much of it that you actually can't go back into that workplace or into that particular industry, because the thought of doing that actually makes you so physically sick. It actually is so detrimental to your health that you kind of go, I can't do that again. I have to do anything but that, because we know where that leads, and it's not nice. And it's interesting though as well, because so many people leave, like they just think leaving is the answer. And I'm so like 100%. If you are in that situation where, you're being bullied and your self-confidence and self-worth has been so crushed and so destroyed, yes, leave. Absolutely. Some people are so stuck because they can't leave. And I know that feeling. It's awful as well, because you beat yourself up being like, I know I'm better than this, but like, why am I feeling this way? You're feeling that way because you're in this shitty environment and these people keep reinforcing that to you every fucking day of the week. They keep reinforcing to you that you are worthless, that you're dumb, that you have nothing to contribute, that you're not working enough, that you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Like everything's a drama, everything's not good enough. Of course, you're stuck in that environment because it's being reinforced every single day. And I think it's really interesting that, when people do leave and they do go into a different workplace, they almost anticipate it being that environment again. Or they end up finding an environment that is exactly the same as that. And it's this vicious cycle. And the way that I see it, it's like we have all this support when people leave bad relationships, right? Like people get validated through those experiences. They're like, oh yeah, of course that was a terrible, that was an abusive relationship, or that was emotionally abusive, or you had instances of domestic violence and all of these things. And so these are like valid things that happen to people that our society reinforces and actually recognizes, that, like, when I say reinforces, they reinforce the support around those experiences. The thing that we're missing in a big way is when these same abusive, and that's what they are, they're abusive. These same abusive situations happen in a workplace. There's not the support there. There's not the recognition of it. They keep like using all these words that almost dismiss how inherently destroying it is. So I've seen Safe Work Australia now call it psychosocial risks. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Call it psychological safety. People understand what that means. Psychosocial? Like, what the fuck? Honestly, like, let's make up some nonsense words and put them together and be like, that's what we're going to call this. I mean, look, if you read into it, sure, what they are talking about is, you know, the mental health and the social kind of things that happen in the workplace. But like, your workplace is not a social interaction, it is a transactional one. And even these social things that people get forced to do, like we're coming up to Christmas and, you know, walking around, you see like lots of Christmas parties and things like that. And I mean, for the most part, like, fuck, some of them are just so performative and they're so bullshit. Like, it's like the little in crowds get their little pat on the back, and everyone outside of that just like goes along for the drinks and to kind of have quiet laughs at people who, yeah, who are just like, I don't know. It's like people get so indoctrinated into an organization that they don't even see. They don't even see outside of it. And it's kind of sad in a lot of ways because so many people don't actually realize who they are outside of that organization. Like they don't realize their sense of self and that they deserve to have a sense of self. I find personal branding so interesting because, you know, everyone's like, oh, you've got to have a personal brand and you've got to be all about personal branding. Like, I get that, but so many organizations don't want you to have a personal brand. I saw a thing on LinkedIn the other day, which I had to, like, I was laughing about. And it was saying that, you know, you are the person that owns your LinkedIn. Your workplace doesn't own your LinkedIn. And so many workplaces do that. They're like, oh, we've got a job that we're, you know, advertising. Can you all share it onto your LinkedIn, you know, share it to your networks. And, oh, we've got this event that we're doing. Can you share it all to your LinkedIn? Like, to make it look like everyone really cares about these things when in actual fact they don't. And they're just being forced to do it. Like, yeah, it's almost like a false economy that you're trying to create. Like you're trying to create a false buzz of things. And it's also performative and just fake. And these things aren't going to last. And I think that that's why, coming back to quiet quitting, why people have gotten to this point, because they're sick of being fake. We've been through 2 years of some pretty crazy stuff. Like, let's face it, the last couple of years have been nuts, and we're still only just processing what has happened. Like, honestly, and I don't think people have really processed what we've all been going through the last couple of years. Like, it hasn't just stopped and things have just reverted back to 2019 before we all got locked down in 2020. Like, that didn't happen. You know, we still need to process what's going on. We still need to adjust. And I think people have had some pretty profound learnings. They've really understood and realized what they value and what they care about. And we're seeing that reflected in the sentiment of workplaces, well, the sentiment of a lot of employees in workplaces and what they are willing and not willing to put up with as much anymore. And I think part of that is that we've realized that, you know, that hour-long commute each way every day is cutting into our time of being able to connect with family or to be able to do things for ourselves and actually really nurture and care for our health. And the workplaces that are, you know, promoting this hybrid as like the answer to working from home, it's complete bullshit. Like, your hybrid is just another way of being like, actually, we really want you in the office, but we're just going to like make these little exceptions because we know people want to work from home. Like, it's just performative. You know, you're not actually creating an environment where you're helping people to thrive. You're just, you know, it's like a pity fuck, basically. You know, you're kind of going, oh, look, I'll just, yeah, we'll let you do that. Just, you know, just to keep you happy. But, um, you know, you can only do it so many days a week. And there's, you know, you can't do it all the time. And you need approval first and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not really actually helping people to transform into what the future of work can look like. And we haven't had a transformation like this in like ever, really. We haven't had this real life, you know, it's been like a real life experiment of having all these people work from home. Like, that's never happened. And I don't think that it would have happened had it not been for the circumstances that created that situation. But what has happened is that we can't ignore the fact that everyone experienced that. We can't ignore the fact that people's lives changed in a very different way. And we can't ignore the fact that people's values and what they really care about have shifted. And they are willing to make concessions for that now. You know, we've seen so many people actually make choices of where they work and how they work and all of these things in reflection of what they've experienced, and go, you know what, I actually don't care for this really high paying job, and I don't really want to work in the city, and I want to go enjoy a slower, more nourishing lifestyle in a different place. And I'm willing to sacrifice certain things for that. Or realizing that they don't have to sacrifice, and they can find organizations that actually truly value what they also care about and are willing to nurture that. And so many organizations are going to be left behind, so many, because if you're not going to get with the program, you're going to find it really hard to entice and attract talent. And that's just the reality of things. People have choices. Younger people have way more choices. You know, I think it's quite hilarious that like parents would think that they still need their kids to be going through school and university and doing all of these things to to get a job and do all that stuff. It's like there's other options now. And education, whilst it's very important, sure, it's a dime a dozen. Everyone can get a certificate. Like it's so readily available now. The internet has, given us this opportunity of like a wealth of information. People can Google anything these days, or, there's always something on YouTube that you can look up. Those barriers to getting information are not there anymore. What's missing though is the wisdom, and what's missing is like having the emotional maturity to like go, you know what, this the way we're doing it is not working. And if we don't really change it now, it's going to be very difficult for us to change it in the next couple of years, because now is the time to really shift. Now is the time to do it, because if you're putting strategies in place and you're planning it out and all this sort of thing, like you can advertise for 1 million jobs. Like you can advertise, you can keep trying to attract staff, but if you don't get these fundamentals right, no one's going to stay. No one's going to endure that. They know that there's better options out there. The thing that I'm fearful of is having young people go into these organizations and think that the bullying and the undercutting and the backstabbing and the way that things work, that's normal. That's the thing that worries me, because it's not. And there are options out there. And I think people need to really understand that, each and every person, yes, is responsible for the culture of an organization, but it needs to be led. Culture doesn't just happen, it needs to be led. And if you have a whole bunch of people that are checking out, that are, acting their wage and quiet quitting, then I would be looking at you as an organization and being like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, what's the underlying cause of this? Because not everyone can be disenfranchised for no reason. What's the actual reasoning that's underneath what's going on? Why are we losing so many staff? Why have 500 employees just quit, like Twitter? Why? What's actually going on? Because there is underlying things that are happening that aren't being addressed. And that's where the issues are. And if people don't get to the core of these issues, that's where you're losing the game. Like you've already lost before you've even started. The last couple of years have been the most incredible reset. And if you keep going on the way that you always have, or just adding hybrid to your whole thing, you've basically wasted that whole chance that you had. You've wasted that time and there's no going back. And so, yeah, like I really hope that organizations understand and that employees understand that, you don't need to keep suffering in silence, but also organizations need to realize that, people don't feel safe to speak up about things. Of course they don't, because they've witnessed other people do it and how they've been destroyed. They've witnessed how HR don't fucking help you. They're there to protect the organization. They're there to protect the executives. They're there to protect the managers. They're not there to be advocating for your employees. So where's the employee experience? Who do you have that's advocating for the employees? Who do you have that's actually sitting there at the table with the executives being like, you know what, this shit isn't working. What are you guys going to do about it? You keep like having circle jerk conversations about things and going round and round in circles, but no one's actually doing anything to fucking change it. You just keep going, oh, like, we'll just move these people, or we'll just like make them redundant, or we'll just get rid of them and just get new blood because that's going to fix the issue. It's not. You've still got an underlying issue that you're not changing. And that's when you need to get the big mirror out and take a look and be like, well, fuck, what are we actually doing? What are the behaviors that we're allowing to happen? What are the things that we're demanding of our staff, of our people, that probably don't, they probably don't align with the values that we purport. Values, as much as you can keep saying the words and paying lip service to all this shit, it's actually the actions that matter. So at the end of the day, I understand why people are quiet quitting. I get it. But also, you can't be upset at them for doing that and thinking that they're not going to get ahead because they're making a choice to protect their own mental health and well-being, because the insidious nature of these organizations is actually so fucking toxic that it's awful. And to try and have to deal with that every day is like, it's just beyond. It's, yeah, there's just no words for some of it. It's cruel. It's malicious. It's awful. And yeah, I think that there needs to be a lot of things that have to change. But as I said before, if organizations don't change now, they're going to find it really hard to find staff. And the organizations that are thriving right now in this time of like, people are finding it really difficult to find staff and all this sort of thing, the organizations that are really thriving are the ones that have nurtured and really given a shit about their staff during the last couple of years. The ones that have walked their talk, the ones that really do care and don't just say it, but actually show it. So yeah, I would implore you, no matter what level you are and no matter where you work, to kind of take a real inherent look at how your organization really values you. And if you're sitting at a management level or an executive level, like, how are you really appreciating your staff? And do they feel appreciated? And if not, why not? And what can you do to change that? Because your little fucking surveys don't help. And talking about it doesn't change it. And as much as you want to downplay all this sort of quiet quitting and act your wage and everything like that, like, these people have a point. Like, there is a point there beyond just the superficial level of what these hashtags are. And it's about getting to the very core of what's going on. And unless we do that, nothing changes if nothing changes. So I hope this has helped. Please like, follow, subscribe. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. All the links are in the bio, in the show notes. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. I love hearing from you guys. So yeah, please keep reaching out and let me know what you think. And if there's any topics that you would like me to cover, please let me know. More than happy to delve into different things. And I hope you have an incredible week wherever you are. Thanks for listening.